Here from the countryside, killed by the fungus that causes a disease called Ash Dieback. But researchers at the University of Warwick say they've identified chemical compounds in the leaves of ash trees which can provide a way to find trees which are naturally resistant to the disease. And that provides a glimmer of hope for the future. Well, our environment correspondent David Gregory-Kumar is in Shropshire for us this lunchtime. So, David, it sounds like good news. What more can you tell us about it?
Well, Nicola, it is good news potentially. This is Wenlock Edge, and this is one of the trees with Ash Dieback. This mark here means it's going to have to be chopped down. And that's not because they're chopping them down to control the spread of the disease. It's a safety thing, unfortunately, as the man who's got the chainsaw explained to me a bit earlier this morning.
It is primarily about safety. Controlling the disease is really right out of our remit. It's a wind-borne fungal spore disease. So trying to stop that is really not possible.
So there are some 350 trees affected on Wenlock Edge, and you can see a path like this. We've had runners and walkers up here all day, and if a Ash Dieback affected tree drops a branch or even worse falls over on someone, well, the National Trust is liable, and that's why it's such an expensive problem for landowners to try and solve.
So David, what have the researchers at Warwick actually done then?
So they've been doing something really quite clever. They've been taking the leaves from some ash trees that seem to be naturally resistant to the disease, drying them out and grinding them up, and they're looking for chemical compounds inside the leaves because they think they can use those compounds to identify other trees that might be resistant.
The focus of our work is not really to try and prevent the ash trees from dying. There's not really much that we can do about that, but what we can do is provide breeders with the most information, either about genetics or the chemistry of the trees which are resistant, to then inform the breeders of which trees they have in field trials which stand a better chance of survival.
So you'd have a generation of ash trees that hopefully in about 20 years' time might be more resistant to the disease. But in the meantime, up here on Wenlock Edge, the one slight bright spark. The spaces left by the trees will be taken over by other flora and fauna. You might see a few more butterflies around on Wenlock Edge when the trees have been chopped down. In the gaps where they are, there'll be some caterpillars, eggs and butterflies next year.
Fantastic. Lovely. David, thank you so much.